I'm trucking on, and I'm trucking on. Move her on down the line, another town will do me fine. I'm trucking on, I'm trucking on.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to Truckin' On. I'm your host, Ward Richmond. I really appreciate you tuning in today, and I hope you enjoy the show. George P. Bush, welcome to Truckin' On.
Great to be with you.
Yeah,
It's an honor. I'm glad we could do this.
me too.
Welcome to Austin.
Thanks. I've known of you for a long time because you went to law school with Fry Warnick, who
That's right.
I went to undergrad with at Brown. I don't know. Do you know Zach Reddington?
I do.
Yeah, Zach went to law school at the same time as you at UT, and we went to high school together. He's one of my best friends from high school. Then
Small world.
You worked at Charter Holdings with Ray Washburn.
Yeah.
He was one of my first clients when I got into commercial real estate. I leased office space, and so I leased Ray's office buildings.
Unbelievable.
Phil Schiebel used to work there. So then Brent Blake introduced us, my client, and at DB Schenker, and now we're working on deals together, and it's been fun. So
It has been. You know, it's amazing where one's career takes you. But I've just learned to just work with people that you enjoy, not only working with, but have a similar kind of principle, agenda, and doing the right thing. And so I think it was just a matter of time before we would connect, and I'm glad we're able to collaborate in a really hot time in the industry, for sure.
that's right. And we did our first deal in Laredo, and the cross-border trade is just booming right now. And then getting to work on projects in Mexico as the nearshoring of manufacturing keeps heading our way to North America, and so many exciting opportunities to work on. So,
Yeah, the Journal just put out a piece, I want to say last week, saying that for the first time since the advent of NAFTA, that trade between U.S. and Mexico now exceeds trade between U.S. and China.
wow.
And so Mexico now is our largest trading partner. We've all known in Texas that Mexico is our number one trading partner as a state, but as a country, because of the decoupling of what you had mentioned between our country and China for national security reasons, I mean, there's going to be a total reshoring, if you will, in northern Mexico. Northern Mexico is going to benefit a lot from that. And the deals we're working on in Nuevo León and other states like that will receive, I've seen an estimate according to Reforma, which is the national paper down there, that half of all that reshoring investment will occur right there in Nuevo León, the state that houses Monterrey, where the $5 billion Tesla production facility will be housed. And so, behind the scenes, I've been working with the Economic Development Corporation here in Austin, with the county judge, who's another UT Law grad, Andy Brown, to work on better interconnectivity between Austin and Monterrey, because they have one of the best STEM-related universities. People forget that in all of Latin America, right there at Monterrey Tech. So, they have a great workforce, entrepreneurial, and it would help to alleviate a lot of the pressures that we're seeing on the border, honestly. And I know we're here to talk business, but what a win-win situation to create a better economy in northern Mexico, release the pressure on illegal immigration on our southern border, but also better enhance the Texas economy to further diversify it away from the Chinese situation.
Yeah. I love it. And I've been working in Mexico for about 10 years now, and I feel like it used to be 0% of my business. Now it's getting up to be 25-30% of our business because of all of that. But this is not about business. This is about life, and it's about George P. Bush. So let's go back in time. I ask everyone the same questions. So age 12 to 22, can you give me a rundown on what that was like for you? Did you have an unusual experience compared to the average American guy that might have impacted you in a certain way?
Well, it's interesting that you say ask age 12, because that was roughly the age where my grandfather was elected. So he was elected in 1992. I was 16 at the time, so a little bit after 12, but it changed my life entirely, because he declared a war on drugs, and being in Miami, there was a call by the Cali cartel, one of the most bloody terroristic cartels you could think of, and that's saying a lot compared to the Mexican cartels in today's day and age. But they put $1 million bounty on the assassination or the hostage taking of any member of the Bush family. So, needless to say, the Secret Service were at our house immediately, and really for the 4 years that he was in office, at the age of 14 to 18, I had Secret Service. And so, I'm not asking for any sympathy by any means, but, as you're kind of establishing your own identity, you're doing things like dating for the first time, you're trying to go to school and, quote, be a normal kid. It makes it a little bit more challenging when you have a Secret Service detail. But, I look back at my grandfather's service and had amazing memories and incredible experiences. And that's really when I first developed my interest in politics. But was glad to go out to Rice in Houston to kind of be a little bit more independent. And that's when Secret Service rolled off, and George P. could be somewhat of a normal kid.
Yeah, right on. So you played baseball, right? Baseball player. Did you play at Rice?
So I didn't. I walked on. I was on the state team for 2A baseball in Florida. Coach Wayne Graham, who is a famous coach for a variety of reasons. He coached for the Astros. He's a pitching coach. He called himself a rubber arm for the Stros for a long time. And then coached for San Jacinto Community College, won 2 national championships, and then Rice recruited him to coach. Jose Cruz was a sophomore when I was a freshman. Lance Berkman was a freshman. And obviously they were scholarship athletes, All-American. We had a great team that made it to the College World Series the junior year. But needless to say, I didn't get a lot of playing time with that level of quality, and really learned a lot from that experience. First of all, I think I pushed myself to a degree that I never thought I could accomplish in baseball, which I'm proud of. But part of me really regrets not, sticking it out and riding pine and being more patient, because I think I would have gotten more playing time and definitely learned from that experience. But was great being in Houston. And speaking of my grandfather's service, that was about the time that he left the White House, so I actually had a chance to hang out with him, on a real basis, going to Molina's Tex-Mex, on Sunday mornings and stuff, and bring my college buddies over to West Houston to hang out with them. It was some of my best experiences looking back on my time at Rice.
Yeah, that's great. And then moving on from Rice, did you have any other interests besides baseball, by the way? Was that your main thing?
That was pretty much it.
Yeah. When you're playing, at that level, it's almost like a job. Right?
That's exactly it.
And I played college football for 1 year and I got injured. And I remember just going from high school to college was a whole nother world. And I played at Brown. It's the D1 2A. So it's not like playing for UT or Rice or any D1 school, but it was still a job, and it was tough. It's hard to go get classes done. There was no time for anything. And when I got injured and quit the team, I could have probably played in pain, but I opted out. It was like the first time in my life that I had true freedom, because even in high school, there's all the extracurriculars and you're just doing stuff all the time. And then all of a sudden I had this free time. It was really nice. So then you went on to law school, right?
Well, actually, there was 2 years there.
Okay.
Before law school, teaching in inner city school. This is before Teach for America program was created. So I went back to Miami, to Homestead, close to where Hurricane Andrew hit, and migrant farming community. And we could spend a different podcast on inner city education in America, but did that and then worked in my uncle's campaign when he ran for president.
Yeah.
But then his campaign was based here in Austin, right down the street, I want to say 2 blocks from here. And Carl C. Rove, hired me and, worked out of here, but also went to UT Law and started my 1L experience right here.
Do you know Will Gaynor by any chance?
I don't know if I do.
Yeah, I went to Brown with him, and he worked on that same campaign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Here in Austin, or?
Yeah, in Austin.
Cool.
Yeah, he came down here, and your uncle, George W., he met him like waiting in line somewhere to like sign autographs or something, and he said, "Hey, here's my resume. Will you give me a job?" And they hit it off. And they gave him a job. So that's another podcast too. So that's awesome. You did that. You got that experience, and you're going to law school. And I mean, just to kind of fast track because I know you're busy and we got a lot to cover. But you've then you've been a lawyer. You're in the real estate business. You're in a consulting business basically. You served in the Navy. Wait, you've done a lot of, you've worn many hats, and then of course Texas Land Commissioner and all the politics. So what of all of those things, like how do you manage all the different hats?
Well, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of sacrifice involved with, say, being in the military. My wife, who's in the next office over, could attest to that in terms of deployments abroad. And it's always, they say in the military, harder on the spouse at home on the home front. And I really tip my hat to her for being there and patient during my deployment to Afghanistan and just allowing me to serve for 10 years. We decided after having 2 kids and serving as Texas Land Commissioner, it was time to hang up the jersey, in the military. And it was a tough decision because several of my friends are still in. They're going for their 20 years, because usually at 10 years, you kind of have to make that decision. And, I just felt like my service to Texas needed to take priority. And with 2 kids, it was just a lot on her. But, I've some kind of joke, well, you haven't stayed in one job for, more than a few years. But, I would say that the legal training coached me the whole way through, whether that was in commercial real estate or, being in the military. They recruited me to be a JAG, but I used those skills instead to be an intel. And I had an honor to work with Admiral McRaven, who later became Chancellor of the UT system and ran special operations. And that was an incredible experience. Probably stands out as my most important professional experience. I think the military, I highly recommend it to anybody who's young. I'm in fact bringing my boys, who are now 8 and 10, to speaking of football, they're playing University of Southern Florida up at Naval Academy. So we'll get a tour that morning, go to the game. And my older son's really interested in the Air Force Academy, so I'm going to take him to Colorado Springs sometime later this year. But finally, I'll just say that I was recently honored to join the National Navy Museum, which is based in the Naval Yard. We're raising money, not only in Texas, but throughout the country. It's really outdated. And, when you think about the Naval Academy, it's outside of DC. So for anybody who's interested in the military but goes to DC, they see great, relics of history, but scattered in different Smithsonian's or the Arlington, but they don't have anything dedicated to the Navy in a really powerful way. So they've reached out to me to kind of link with the Bush Library, my grandfather's library in College Station. So we're working on bringing some artifacts from the World War II era. But we also want to tell the story of the future warfighter. So the Navy SEALs that really kicked ass in post 9/11 timeframes, with great Texans that are part of that story, including Chris Kyle, who rests in the Texas State Cemetery right here in Austin. And attracting the next generation, inspiring them. I want to spend a lot of time doing that. I think, recruiting is so important. When you read the news about how, our American kids who are coming to 18 are less qualified now than ever before to serve. So to me, I view that as a challenge that we need to overcome, and if we're going to compete with China over the long term.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of my I have few regrets in life, and I feel like I would have really benefited from serving in the military. And I think at this stage, it's not happening. 45, I'm a single father of a 5-year-old and 9-year-old, so it's not. But thank you for your service and then all that you're doing. And I couldn't agree more. I read a book recently, and this guy joined the military right out of high school, and he's saying in the book that it's the best thing to do before you go to college is go serve in the military for 4 years, and then you can show up to college and you're a man. He's talking about like pledging a fraternity and stuff when you're 21 years old and you have money in your pocket, and you just have that life experience. But I would not be, obviously I'm not going to be impacted by it, but I wouldn't be opposed to some type of system like that where you're, that you're, it's a requirement of some sort, or it's more normalized that kids are going into people are going into the military at a young age. I think would be wonderful. So let's see. What advice would you give your younger self?
You know, to not give up. I mean, to never quit. There are some situations where, I did quit, like baseball we were talking about in college. I got frustrated because, to make that transition to D1, top 20 team, and that is a regret that I have, is giving up, and in having the discipline at the time. I mean, we've talked about military. I think if I had maybe 2 years enlisted before going to college, I would have been a different baseball player.
Right.
That lesson, I think, has impacted me in terms of just waking up every day and being driven and trying to accomplish something for the benefit of my clients. And so, I just wish that I had that life lesson a little bit earlier on, because I don't know, for those that are athletes, you always think about would have, could have, should have. And now that my boys are getting into baseball, not that I see the same thing, but I wish for them to reach their full absolute potential. I feel like I'm reaching that professionally, but in terms of my athletic, because there's a very short shelf life, right? And
Right.
you have to have that. I know that I have that discipline, and I know that I have that drive now. I just wish that I had it a little bit younger. It would have
Yeah.
been fun to watch.
Yeah, it's just funny. I love it. We're about the same age, and at this stage of life, it's. I always go back, like, if I only had gone to Brown University with my thirst for knowledge I have as a 45-year-old, I would have made straight A's. But
That would have been awesome.
it would have been,
Experience.
but like maybe I wouldn't have been having the same thirst for knowledge I do today that I did back then. So I just like let God lead the way, and I think it all happens that way for a reason. And now you know you can instill that lesson into your children, and you remember it, and it pays off in everything else you do in life, right? So it's pretty beautiful. And then, what's the greatest obstacle you've overcome? If you had,
I
to
wouldn't
name
say that I
one.
overcame it, but I would say running for AG.
Oh,
It
yeah.
didn't work out. I think looking back on it, the service was great for 8 years, for 2 terms as land commissioner. But I decided to take on a challenge that even my own political advisor said, "Don't do. You won't win." And I feel like sometimes in life it's okay to fail, particularly if it's for the right cause and for the right reason. And so, and it may not be a challenge that I've ever overcome, honestly, which is fine, because when you look at the founders of this nation, the drafters of the Constitution, they didn't contemplate people serving careers. Again, we could spend another podcast on term limits and age limits on public service. But
I'm here for it.
I mean, and I believe we've talked about that offline prior. When you
Yeah.
look at kind of the leadership in the U.S. Senate and both of the major presidential candidates being octogenarian, I mean, we're a nation of 340 million people. Certainly, we can find some folks that are maybe a little bit younger, and maybe it is time for that transition to a Gen Xer. We haven't had a Gen Xer as president. I think Obama's considered kind of a younger
on the cusp
baby
a little
boomer.
bit. Yeah.
But I don't believe that we've had that. And so we'll test that with, Governor DeSantis running there.
It's going to
But,
have to happen sooner or
gonna happen.
later.
But I feel like as a fellow Gen Xer, we sometimes are overlooked, right? The millennials and, the Yers, or whatever we're calling the next gen. There you go. We see some celebration stands over there.
Logan falls into that category.
They could leapfrog. So, all to say that there are enormous challenges there, in my personal life that I haven't overcome, that I'll maybe return to depending on the timing. So,
Right. I brought you a red, white, and blue supplychainrealestate.com hat. So when you're ready, you have a hat to wear. That's very patriotic.
I'm all about the hat. I'm
Yeah.
all about the hat. I'll be wearing it
Let's see it.
on a baseball field soon.
Yeah.
Especially if my son's team is the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can wear an
you
actual
go.
Brewers hat. I can just go with the blue and the yellow.
I like the blue and yellow. It's got that vintage feel to it.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so let's get into. I've got rapid fire questions here, and I ask these questions because I love all of these things, and so I like to hear from other people what their favorite things are to do in these categories. So do you have a morning ritual?
I don't know if that I have a ritual per se, but I do have a routine, I guess, and
Yeah.
that is, and I'm sure every doctor listening is going to say, "Don't do this," but I immediately take my phone off and I am reading kind of the world's news, high level, not detailed. I'm distantly related to blogger John Ellis, who has what he calls news items. And it's basically the top 20 hits
Oh, that's cool.
that happen in the world while you're sleeping. So it's mostly international because I know that I'll get kind of US news, Texas news, local news at some point through a paper or TV or what have you. I'm a news junkie, so I've got to get my hit of
Yeah.
news
Right,
while
when you
I'm
wake up,
sleeping.
what happened? Yeah.
So I do that every morning. Coffee, oatmeal, wake up boys, get them ready.
What time do you get up?
Usually it's 6:30 now that we're in school season, but non-school it's like 6:40ish. I used to CrossFit in the morning, but due to numerous injuries, and I'm sure you hear that a lot, I no longer do that. I do more kind of cross training, usually in around the lunch hour, kind of late afternoon. But the morning to me is it sets the tone really for the rest of your day. And for me, routine is maybe it's military, but I've got to own the morning.
100%. What's your favorite hotel?
Favorite hotel?
Or
I'm gonna
or
go.
place if you're not a hotel guy.
Yeah.
Too. So,
There's some great hotels here in Austin, but being land commissioner, one of the privileges is seeing the entire state. And my favorite part of the state is the Trans-Pecos corridor. So Marfa,
mhm.
Marathon, Terlingua, Big Bend area. There's the Gage Hotel out of Marathon, and I remember campaigning my first time for land commissioner. That was really the best part of the campaign was getting in a bus. We hit all 254 counties, including the ones where there's more cow than cowboy hats, and that happened to be one of them. And I'm trying to think of who owns it now, but they revitalized the hotel. But it's just old school Texas.
Yeah.
And that's a part of the state that I would always encourage whenever I travel around the state for people to check out. And even though as land commissioner, you're supposed to promote the Texas beaches more than kind of, the Trans-Pecos. But to me, that part of the state is the most mysterious, but really one of the coolest parts of and it just makes you appreciate the majesty of our lands, our state lands,
Yeah.
of which I administered, and really cool part of the state.
I don't know if we've ever discussed it, but I used to play in a honky tonk band, and we played the Terralingua Chili Cook-Off one year.
No way.
And that was so fun. Camped out and tried everyone's chili, and then
Yeah.
so many cool Texas country bands played it.
What's that cafe? It's the is it the Bright Stars Cafe? What's the name of that cafe?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was years ago. And and I've been to Marfa a few times. That's just magical.
Yeah, there's
So-
where you can camp out there, and it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. What about your favorite restaurant?
So I'm now a new resident of Austin. I've been here for a few years because the law required me to move here. I like to say, yeah.
That's a pretty good deal. I want to move here. I want the law to require me to move from Dallas to Austin. No offense, Dallas.
But Mandy and I, we were in Fort Worth for a long time. We missed the steakhouses. Here in Austin, I feel like there's a different take on steakhouses. There's one here called Die Dewey. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, I haven't.
It's literally a butcher's house. It's a butcher's market, and meats from all over. And man, the best pork chop I would put up in the entire state.
But it's
awesome.
also a little restaurant. So is that right? Or do you just go there and buy the meat?
It's like a storefront butcher, and then in the back there's like, I don't know, 5 to 8 tables.
That's
And
cool. I got to try it out.
It's really quiet. It's close to where Manny and I went to law school, so it's just on the east side of 35, and really close to LBJ school. Really quiet, and we love just kind of
Dewey?
Die Dewey, and we
Okay.
go on date nights there, and we're paleo, so
Right.
for us,
I
meat
can
is very meat is very important. So we love. It's just kind of a local butcher's place, and it's an awesome
Yeah.
joint.
It's great. What about a book that you think people should read?
That's a good one. I don't know. I recently finished John Meacham's biography on Abraham Lincoln. He's a master presidential historian. Also, did Jefferson as well for the historians in the crowd. In terms of what they should read, I don't know. In business, the startup problem, the cold start problem is a good one in terms of startups that I recently read in terms of business leadership. That's really good. As a Christian, I think I recommend Halftime. I read that after I lost for Attorney General. The chairman of my spiritual advisory committee, who helped me with meeting with pastors throughout the state, said, look, for those of your listeners that aren't aware of the thesis of the book, basically, Halftime refers to halfway through your life, like once you encounter either a change in career or failure. And the author is actually Dallas-based, about a successful television company owner where he consolidated ownership. And as a Christian, he felt deeply troubled by just pursuing money and success and titles and possessions, and devoted the rest of his life to Christian ministry and helping troubled youth. And so for me, it was a really powerful book, because here you are as an elected official at the perch in a powerful position, and here you are kind of transitioning to private sector and figuring out what you're going to do as a father, as a husband, as now a private citizen. And for me, it was, really, really moving book.
Yeah, I've got to read it. I just did a podcast. I just turned 45 in June. So I did a podcast, my top 45 things at 45. I just reflected. I've always been thinking I'll win. It's like winning if I live to be 90. So I am at halftime, right? If that's
You're going to live to 100, man. So we're hopefully we're not quite to halftime, but we're there. We're getting close.
So you're getting close. And that came to me a lot, reflecting on lessons learned and how I want to live my life moving forward. And there's just going to be a difference. And I've read books that say the first half of your life's about doing, the second half of your life's about being. So if you think about that, that is that's a little deep, but I think it's probably a similar message to that book. So I'm going to have to go read it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
What about a quote?
So Winston Churchill, never give up. I made reference to before, is always important. Actually, I have here in this office Theodore Roosevelt's "Blood, Sweat, Tears" quote, which to me, again, was kind of my rallying cry, knowing that I was running for an office that I was probably gonna lose, because it's not the critic that counts; it's the person that's actually in the arena. It's the person that dares bold deeds, rather than the person who leads a very timid and cold soul. And so to me, I thought that was powerful, especially when you look at the background of Teddy and what he accomplished. I mean, he ran races where he knew he was going to lose. Same with Abraham Lincoln. They were pushed by an innate desire to serve greater causes and be principled and magnanimous. And so I feel like we've lost a lot of that in American politics. So I find a lot of inspiration in what Teddy stood for and what he was.
That's great. And we put all of this stuff in the show notes too, so everybody can go look it up. What about music? Do you have a song? Artist? I say a song, if there's like a song you want to share, or if there's an artist that you love right now.
Right now, I'm digging Bad Bunny.
That's that Miami.
It is little Caribbean, good summer music. My boys. It's funny because I really live life through their lens, and they are really into the new Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who like hip hop, that listen to your show should really listen to that album, because first of all, as a parent, I'm very skeptical, because modern day hip hop is just riddled with, I won't even go, I can't even describe what it's bad.
Bad Bunny is.
It is.
He has a way with words.
Yeah, directly. But the Spider-Man album, it's clean. I've checked it. I've listened to it several times. Good. There's some illusion, but it's a little bit over kids' heads.
It's not WAP level.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but it's kind of that higher level rappers. For once, they do a clean cut, which is great. But I know I consider myself a universalist. I listen to, I mean, I even went to a symphony, God forbid,
Same.
to take my wife on a date night a few months ago. So you
Yeah.
gotta get street cred, with the wife wherever you can.
That's no doubt about it. And yeah, I'm a universalist as well when it comes to music. And yeah, Bad Bunny, he's on fire. My neighbor from growing up is his booking agent. I got to
Really?
get him on the podcast.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I think he's the number one selling artist in the world right now.
Number one downloaded at
concerts,
Spotify. Yeah. I
Selling
mean,
out
I believe it on
concerts.
concert side too. I mean, it's incredible. His creativity. He's really breaking new barriers.
Have you met him before?
I have not. I do actually. The seller of the transaction we worked on apparently knows Peso Pluma,
Okay.
who's the new kind of banda mexicana craze that's coming out that people are saying could be the next Bad Bunny as well. So, I mean, it's
It
crazy.
can happen.
It can happen.
I want to be there. I want to meet Bad Bunny. I need him on. I want him to text me back. That's great. What about charity? I know you're involved in all kinds of things, but if you had to pick one thing that you have a lot of passion towards, what would that be?
So I mentioned the National Navy Museum. I'm pivoting to that. Here in Austin, I was asked by former General Murray, who's a 4-star general that ran Army Futures Command here in town, to stand up a homeless initiative for veterans here in Austin. We have a homeless issue in our city, and so we're partnering with Communities Foundation, which is Christian-led, ministry-led effort in East Austin, where we're partnering with 3D printed companies like Icon here in Austin and in the tech community to help house our military veterans. I was privileged to be invited to my grandfather's advisory board for his public policy school. As a Longhorn, I know it pains the Longhorns of your readers, but love working in Aggie land and helping recruit the next generation that are interested in his style of public service, which has been a lot of fun, and helping them open a DC campus there. So I'd say between those three, that's kind of my current focus. Manny and I are involved in our church here in Austin, Riverbend, which has been just a true blessing and just a great community. But we miss. We were very active with Big Brothers, Big Sisters in North Texas, where one of the cool aspects of, people don't realize this, but philanthropy can actually be great for business, because we had a chance to meet T. Boone Pickens, who's a big backer of that effort. Tom Hicks Sr. and others that were really passionate about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And I used to be a Big Brother myself in Fort Worth with a little in Fort Worth, which we loved, and a great program they're doing. So amazing. I think the national headquarters now are based in the Metroplex.
Oh, really? In
So-
DFW?
So they've done an awesome job.
I did that in college at Big Brothers Rhode Island, but I've not gotten involved there in DFW, but that's good to know. And okay, if you had $100 million in a briefcase, what would you invest it in?
That's tough. I wouldn't invest in crypto.
No,
I wouldn't go into Bitcoin.
I did that already. That ship has sailed. I thank God I've exited all of that, and that's just. I mean, good for people if it goes up and they make billions of dollars, but I don't. I want to make my money other ways.
If it had to be in one thing, now that I'm thinking about it, I'd say Texas land in the Golden Triangle. So Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. And the only reason why I say this is just this morning I was reading a demographic projection of Texas by 2050 will be 40 million in population. So we're at 29 million, add another 11 million. And then in the same study, they showed that Austin, which has a metro population of about 2.1 million, could very well be 20 million by the end of the century. And with Houston, Dallas overtaking New York and Los Angeles. It's a really bold prediction that was put out in the Austin American Statesman. I don't know if I want to question the methodology, but for Houston, Dallas to overtake, think about that, New York, LA, and Chicago, and for Austin to be probably in the top 5 metros. I mean, because if you're investing 100 million, you want to think long-term, almost like an endowment, rather than kind of a quick pop, I would think.
Right.
So to me, that just, and I know that probably benefits, that might be self-serving for you, but you think
I'd
about
say
it.
let's go find land and start whittling away, because I agree 100%. And it just is growing. I mean, you can tell when you drive around. I don't need a report to even see that that's happening, and so many people are moving here every day to Austin and to DFW and to Houston, and and then it just keeps expanding. I'm doing a lot of work in Temple right now, and I've talked to you about that. And I mean, the Austin population is just growing north, and I mean, before you know it, Temple's going to be like a Denton is for Dallas, and
Totally.
it's getting all connected. And it used to be two separate things, and now it's all together. So I love that thesis. I'm on board with it. Monterey would be good too, but Texas, having Texas real estate is nice because
A little less
Texas
geopolitical
guys.
risk.
Yeah, a little less. I told my cousin last night that I want to buy a house in Costa Rica. He goes, "You can do that if you have that money, just that you don't mind spending it all and don't know what might happen with it." But I still might do it.
Hope you do, so you can invite me.
Oh, I'm planning on it. I just fell in love with Tamarindo, Costa Rica. I went there last week, and I'm going back for Thanksgiving with the kids. And I mean, I've been looking for a place, and like this, okay, I think I might have found it. So to go get by the ocean and quiet time. It's a blue zone, I believe. So there's so much just lush greenery, and it's just a nice, like, polar opposite of Dallas, basically. Okay. Vision board. What's next?
I think, again, going back to my faith, I think the message is for me to be a good dad to my boys.
Mm-hmm.
They had no interest in baseball before the loss, and I'll never forget, and I'm not just saying this, but the day after the loss, they dusted off their baseball gloves in the closet, and they said, "Dad, it's time." And they knew that I love baseball and that it's my passion, and we've been at it since. Now Jack played for 1 year, and he's out, but my older one is all about it. So I think the message, is to be a good dad, husband, principal businessman, and just see what doors open. 47, and there's a lot of time left to serve, and a lot of time to be a part of the process, because we need good leaders in Texas, in our cities, and in our country. So we'll see where it goes. It's. I think a lot of this is in God's hands. So
100%.
that takes away a lot of the stress.
That softens that landing when you come home from the toughest day ever, and your son says, "Well, Dad, let's go play catch." I mean,
Totally.
The kids just know.
Everything else fades away.
I say my kids are my greatest teachers. And where do our listeners find you?
So I've got a lot of social media channels, except for TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also my website. I also have a political action committee called Restore Trust. RestoreTrustPAC.com is where you can check out more what we're doing. It's really bipartisan, where we're focused on reducing the size and scope of government, just asking government to spend within their means. It's a very simple thesis. And that's where you can find me. And then also LinkedIn. I'm getting a lot more active on LinkedIn. I find that a little bit more professional and above kind of the political fray. So definitely hook me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we'll put those links down, and I'm interested in that political action committee. That sounds very appealing to me. Less is more.
Yeah, it's very simple. I just felt like just take the party affiliations out and just focus on reducing the size and scope. The fraud is unbelievable since the COVID relief funds have come out. Our studies show over $250 billion, we believe, has been wasted either from fraud or misappropriation. And so we're just going to shine a light, almost like a watchdog, if you will, from a Texas perspective on the federal budget. But we're also going to look at the Texas budget, because we had $30 billion in surplus, and we advocated for just returning that money to taxpayers. You know better than anybody, being in commercial real estate, that a lot of your clients view that as probably the most punitive aspect of being in the Texas economy. And if we're going to continue to attract California investors and people from Illinois and all over the country and world, that property tax liability is something we're going to have to deal with. So we did this legislative session pass a small reform, but I don't think we did enough because we're still, I think, top 10 in the country in terms of total property tax liability. So we got to work on that.
Well, George, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a true pleasure.
Honor was mine, man.
We're going to have to do it again.
We will.
We can talk about other things.
Absolutely. Next time we'll do it in Dallas.
All right. Thanks so much, brother.
Appreciate it.
I need someone to help me find a brand new attitude. I need someone to lend me a little bit of latitude. I wish someone would tell me what the hell I'm supposed to do. Then the voice in my gut kicked me in the butt and said, I'm the only one you need to listen to. Then my soul told me I'm the only one to listen to. And I'm trucking on. And I'm trucking on. Move her on down the line. Another town will do me fine. I'm trucking on. I'm trucking on. I tried to run away like a freight train with no track. I tried to escape like a convict leaving Alcatraz. I prayed every day for a cachet I could never have. My bad decisions catalyzed the best ideas I've ever had. Bad decisions catalyzed the best ideas I've ever had. And I'm trucking on. I'm trucking on. Move her on down the line. Another town will do me fine. I'm trucking on. I'm trucking on. So much shame when I share my little lies. No one left to blame until I stare into these eyes. I'm gonna tell the truth to you till I break on through to the other side. Living like I'm gonna die is the only time I feel alive. Living like I'm gonna die is the only time I feel alive. And I'm trucking on. I'm trucking on.